Hello everyone, welcome to this special edition of the New Terran Astrology teaching series. My name is Jeroge Wahome Warugongo. I'm an astrologer within Kingdom Touch Ministries and New Terran Astrology. Today is the 15th day of the 7th month of the 4th year of our New Terran calendar, as you may well see at the bottom of your screen. And if you've been part of our most recent meeting, especially during the Kingdom Touch Ministries midweek fellowship, you may have heard us remark something about the significance of this month, and especially this day, Passover of the year 004 Eroranium. That is this very day, 15th of the 7th month. And for us in order to understand a little bit more about the significance of this day, let's just take a quick look at the outline of the days of the calendar of this month. This is something I spoke about again last week, so I'll not touch on too many details. But as you can see, there are plenty, a lot more highlights on this month than a typical month. We have the 10th of the month, that was Wednesday, that just passed, of the other week that passed, as a Saturday equinox. That's going to be very significant to everything I'm going to talk about, so mark that. Because I'll refer to it later, but I want to come back to this screen of a calendar. Now, the other thing is, of course, the day on which we are talking about, the 15th of the 7th month. As you can see, it's got different annotations. And if you notice at the bottom, we call this the Passover. But if you go ahead, 4 days later, we are going to talk about Good Friday. And then 3 days later, depending on how you count, you're talking about Passover Sunday. And this for somebody who's been brought up maybe in the Western form of Christianity, they may create a little bit of a contradiction, because from our understanding, I'll go back by the way back to the screen, is that the terms Passover, often Easter, Good Friday, often refer to the very same thing. In reality, if you go back and delve into ancient writings on which these days were instituted and look at the traditions upon which, then we see they are all interrelated, but they refer to very different things. Actually, in reality, Passover is something that is instituted in the Old Testament at the time of the beginning of the exodus of the Jews from ancient Egypt. I don't want to go into that story. I expect many of us are familiar with it. And then Easter is more really actually not even a Christian holiday. It's really a pagan holiday. And if I say that, that can seem pagan. In many Christian circles, the word pagan is often associated with lack of belief. But let me just tell you, there's a time I used to be an atheist, and people would tell me, "Oh, you're a pagan." And I would tell them, "I'm nowhere near pagan," because actually pagans have belief. They have faith. They're very religious in that instance. In that case, only they don't have what we call like organized religion. And I would dare say, maybe to a measure of controversy, many Christians who follow the nominal way of Christianity, maybe you have a lot to learn from people who do paganism, because paganism is based on a belief of nature cycles and things like fertility cycles and all that. And there is ability, because when God created a creative world in which we are meant to be the creative beings, there's a lot to learn from natural cycles and what they are about. So there is, I don't want to go into that, that's not the part of it. And then we have Good Friday and what it means. Before we address that, let's look at really Passover. Why is it Passover? If you look at the institution of Passover, I believe is in the book of Deuteronomy, where the significance of Passover and the specific days upon which Passover is instituted is given. And it is very specific that on the month of Aviv, on the 15th day, you shall mark the day of Passover. And that is the day on which the children of Israel were to depart, to make their departure from Egypt. And the night was to be spent doing certain activities. I don't want to go into all of them. But why was it significant? Now, the 15th day, look at the 15th day, it's not just any other day on a lunisolar calendar, on a lunar calendar. The 15th day is the day on which the sun and the moon are in opposition. And that means whatever the sun is doing, the sun is doing, the moon does the opposite. So when the sun sets to begin the day, the moon rises. But this is not special to the month on which you mark the Passover. Happens 12 times or 13 times across the solar year, depending on that particular year. So why significant? For us to understand that, let's look at some graphics that we usually look at every week when we are talking about the special alignments on a particular week. So the sun and the moon on Passover, as it is tonight, as you can see, the moon is here. There's a sign of the moon at the very beginning of house number 1. This graphic of the celestial heavens begins with house number 1, goes all the way to house 12. And here, right bang in the middle of it, is the sun moving across the place, with the division between house number 6 and house 7, but actually being in house 7. This actually is a little bit of a simplification, because we know the sun moves, of course, much slower than the moon. So it's made significant progress into the 7th house. But this is just a simplified version to show you how well aligned the sun and the moon are, is that they are particularly at the same junction. And the moon is setting to descend across the celestial heaven. It will be a lot of, if you know where the celestial equator is, and over this next 7 days, 14 days, you look at where the moon is, you'll notice that it's significantly below the celestial equator. If you look at it when, especially if you are located near the equator, and you are to look at the moon when it passes overhead, you see that it will always be to your south. And if you look at the sun, when it does the same transit, if you want to, you see that it is to the north. But this special alignment is happening only on this night. And this is actually, I'm not saying that it is what instituted, that God looked at the sun and the moon and said, okay, when the sun, you have to waited for the moon and the sun to do this. But in the way God configured time to pass across the realm we live in, is that there is something very specific that allows certain gateways to access creative energy to come, and is able to be given on this particular day. That is why God would choose the day on which he gave out the redemption, which would be the redemptive power, which was to give the children of Israel passage to the land of promise, to be given on this very night. And then when the whole of humanity was crying for redemption, God gave his son to be offered sacrificially on a night with the very same sort of alignment. Normally, if you look at the consciousness of how everybody reads the heavens, normally it's the constellations that usually matter. But if you look at the time, the passage of time between the first institution of the Passover at the time of the Exodus and the time the Christ child is born and when he dies upon the cross, the constellations would have moved significantly so that they would be different. So it was not really so much about the alignment of the constellations, but it is the gateways, the points at which the sun and the moon is attaining this alignment. And that is, for this particular year, it is on this night. It's on this day that begins with this night and continues on. And that is what makes the Passover special. And that is why we need to observe it on the 15th, because that is when we get this particular alignment. So then why do we come back again and celebrate Good Friday on the Friday that follows? So because when Christ died, it's our belief, and many Christians, I realize a lot of contention about this. Actually, there's some Christian groups, actually for them, Good Friday is anathema. They don't observe it. And there is merit, if you reason to that argument, but I also believe there's something to be said when Christ was to die on the 6th day of the week, and then he rose on the 1st day of the week. If we move the remembrance of the death of Christ on this day, then it will not be significant enough for us to look at the time of his rising, which was also significant enough, because this is when he arose with power, given to him, having overcome every sort of adversity. And therefore, these 3 days, in order to match them, we have to mark Friday as well. On some years, we will have the not the luck, but we'll have the good fortune, let me just say so, of having Friday being the day of Passover as well. We'll not have that time. We'll not have 2 days. The Passover will be the same as Good Friday. And of course, significantly on this day, we also have a very special alignment, because this day happens also to be on a day when the sun and moon are aligned such a way that the shadow of the earth is going to appear on the moon, and the moon will carry either a dark or a reddish hue upon its face. It's not a full lunar eclipse. It's a penumbral one. That means the earth's dark shadow will not shine on the moon, so it will be very light, but it is still significant enough. And those people who are at least on the to the west of, like, let's say, I think the 10th degree, if you use the meridian of Greenwich, that means mainly in the Pacific, in the Atlantic and the North American parts of Northern Europe, you'll be able to observe this one happened before sunrise. Rather, I mean Western Europe really, but for us it will be a little bit too late. So significantly, I mean us who are in East Africa and majority of the African continent as well. Just everywhere in Africa, we're going to be able to see that. But that doesn't mean that it is not significant enough. So this brings us to a crucial question. So when exactly is it we're going to look at this particular alignment? At what time? That is a significant question that rises. This will be on this day, Monday the 15th of the 7th month of the 4th year, in the morning, meaning the sun will not have passed overhead of the noon, what for us who are here in East Africa, 7 minutes to 5 o'clock, and in the Gregorian and the common way of telling time, that will be Monday the 24th of March 2024 at 10:53 a.m. And the question that, of course, arises naturally from that, what should you do? Now, I would, for now, if you are a family and you believe that you can observe communion, then that would be a good time to do communion together. But all the same, at the same time, we're going to have a live transmission. We're going to give you a link that you may be able to join and get some little bit more of what common language that we speak creatively, in order to appropriate whatever energy is necessary for us, for that heaven is giving to us, to be creative beings across not only this month, but across the whole year. So please be on the watch out for that. I realize that maybe if you don't have a copy of a calendar, just indicate there in the comments, and you'll be able to give you a way to get your copy of a calendar so you can follow these days on your own. If you have any other questions, do that. Please also remember to like this video, share it, subscribe to this channel. There's going to be a lot more teaching videos coming in the future. God bless you. Have an amazing Passover, Good Friday, and Pasaka Sunday as they are coming. Any questions, you can address them here, or you can also, if you're not part of our global community, and you're telling global community, just click, we provide a link for you in the description. You can join us. There's a lot of activity going and coming ahead, and a lot of exciting developments. God bless you. Have an amazing Passover. I think Passover. I think that's the second time I'm saying it. God bless you.